Hi, in this video we are going to learn about MongoDB. So before getting started with MongoDB, we have to know what is MongoDB. Well, MongoDB is a general purpose, document-based, distributed database built for modern application developers and for the cloud era. And the data that is being here stored is stored as a JSON-like documents, and it's called as a non-SQL database. There is no schema, there is no structure here, so it's very flexible compared to as the SQL database. So let's start with signing up here or registering here. So we are going to click on the try free button, and here you can get started free. After signing up, you will go to the Atlas page, Cloud Atlas page server, because we are going to use as a production deployment basis. So when you start free, you have already signed up, and after signing up you will go to this page where you have to create a new project. So let's say our project name is MongoDB demo. After that, you will be redirected to this page, which called give your member. That is not necessary. We can create here create project. After that, you will be on this page where you have to select build a cluster. Here we are going to use create a cluster, that is a free, and we are going to use this cloud provider AWS, and wherever you are, select the nearest server. After that, in the cluster tier, we are going to use free forever, and there is no need. You can change the name of your cluster if you want to. Now we are going to create a cluster. It will take some time to create the cluster. So now we are here, now we are going to see how can we get started with the MongoDB in our app. Well, for app we have to use the MongoDB driver that is pre-built and that is being used here. So in here we are going to use MongoDB driver. So let's open our project. Now we are going to create a new project. Let's say MongoDB demo. Now we're going to go to this MongoDB demo folder. One sec. Yeah, MongoDB demo. Now we are going to initialize the npm using npm init-y, and now we are going to open our editor, the Visual Studio Code. So for using the MongoDB, here we are going to install two things. First one is MongoDB Express. Here you can see that the MongoDB and the Express has been installed here. So for starting the project, we are going to use npm node app, the file that I have not created right now. And for dev part, we are going to use nodemon app. So for nodemon, we are going to install it in the dev dependency part using npm install test save dash dev nodemon. Now here we can see that in this page the connection has been made. So for connecting it into our app, we are going to click on the connect, and here you will see that there are some connection requirements are needed. So first of all, we are going to go to the database access. Here we are going to create a new user, let's say Anshuman, and let's auto generate a secure password, and we are going to select read and write to any database. Now we are going to select the network access. Here we are going to add the IP address, which is either add current IP address, which is help to give the secure authentication. Now if we go to our cluster section, now we are going to connect. Now we are going to connect to the cluster. So for connection, we are going to use the connect your application. Here we are going to use this connection string. So let's copy it. After copying it, we are going to now into our app, we are going to create a new file. Let's say app.js. In here we are create the express module, or take the express module from the express, and we are going to use the app and requiring the express as a function, and it will listen to the port 3000 for starting the server. So it's complete, the server can be started. But here we are going to use how to get started with the MongoDB. So we are going to, let's say we are going to create a new folder, let's say utils. In here we are going to create a new file, let's say db.js. In here we have installed the MongoDB driver into our project, so we are going to require it from the MongoDB and say MongoDB is equal to require MongoDB. In here there is some called Mongo client, which we are going to require from it, which is a property of it, which is a file of it, which is a field of it. So in here we are going to connect to it as a client. For connecting, we are going to use Mongo client dot connect. In here we are going to pass the URL. So for passing it here, we have used the password, but as I have forgotten the password, we have to again require the password. For requiring it here, we are going to edit it and edit the password. Here we are going to auto generate it from here, and we are going to require it from here, and let's update the user. Now in here there will be the URL, so let's say here is the password, and we are going to get SRV string from the connection. So here we are going to again copying it, and let's say here const URL is equal to this one. So here we are going to cut from here and paste into it here the password. After doing this, we are going to use the URL as a parameter here, and that's it. We are going to connect from here. It will take a callback function and it will take two arguments. First one is error, if there is, and second one is the client. And now if we say if there is error, then return. If there is no error, let's console out the client base. Client. Now that's it. If we start here from npm run dev, so if we run it, it will say nothing. It gives nothing. That's because we have started the app file, but we haven't connected with the db.js file. So for connecting it, we have to say all the code is here. So before cutting or pasting it from here to here, we can do this. Like, we are going to require it from .utils and get a db file. So if we run this, now we can see that it will give the client back. So here it returns the Mongo client, all the things, all the fields that are here. Now here we are going to see how can we do the CRUD operation, that is create, read, update and delete. So for doing the CRUD operation, we are going to use the client, and by client means we are going to create a new const db which take the client and db, and let's say our database name is the test. So test is a database for the collection, means for a table in the SQLized database, where here we are going to use the collection as a table. So let's say the name is users. In here we are going to first use the insert, means create. How can we create a document in a collection? So let's say if we are going to create a one document, we are going to use the insert one method. In this, we are going to give an object, let's say name Ansuman is 21. After that, this returns a promise. So for handling the promise, we are going to use a then, which takes a result, which gives a result, and we are going to console.log the object that we have sent using result res.ops. And if there is an error, you can see it from here, like e console.log error. Now if we save it and see that there is one document that we have inserted, that is this one, and if we see into our atlas, we are going to see in the collection, and here we are going to see that there is a database that is called test, and the document or a collection that is called users, one docs, Ansuman and the S. So we can also use how can we insert more than one document. We can do that by using another method. Let's say you can do this by using db.collection users dot insert many. Here we are going to use the array because we are sending more than one document. So by doing this, we can send more than one document. Let's say here Vinay is 21, or let's say 27, and another user, let's say Ankur, is 25. So it will be a number. So here also will be number. So we have inserted two documents here. Now it's a promise. So we have to use the promise sequence. We are going to use then and console log the result that we have sent by using response.ops. And also we can catch the error by using catch method. And let's say if there isn't any error, we can console it. Now if we send it back, we will see that we have sent two documents, Vinay and Ankur. Now if we refresh it, we will see that there is two documents, Vinay and Ankur. Now we are going to see how can we find or read any data. So for reading a document, we can do so by using another method that is used, that is db.collection users dot find. If we are going to find one, means we are going to find only one document, we have to use find one method. And let's say we are going to filter out the document that we are going to use. Let's say age will be the 27. That means we are going to find the document that is Vinay. Now it's take a callback, so we can use the .then response, and it will log out the result by using response. And if there is an error, we can catch it using console.log error. Now if we save it and use it, you can see that we have been returned with the name Vinay and the age 27. Now we can also find all the documents by using another method that's called db.collection users.find. Well, find is different from other methods. Well, it gives a pointer, so it gives a cursor back. So we are going to use to array, means it will return the file as an array. And now we can use the response and response back. And if there is an error, we can error it by using console.log error. Now if we save it, we will see it returns all the documents because we have sent nothing. So it returns all the Ansman, Vinay, Ankur. Now if I send like something called is equal to 25 or 24, Here we see there is no documents like this. Now if we save this, it will not give an error. It will just send back an array, means it's a null. So it's not an error if we send out a filter value that is not being there in a collection. So the our operation is completed. Now we are going to see how can we use the U operation, that is update. So for updating our document, we are going to use update one and update many. Update is being duplicated from the newer version, so we are going to use update one and update many. For updating only one document, we are going to use update one by sending one parameter, that is the age21, and updating it with some value. And it's also is a different from how can we set it. So for setting it, we are going to use $set, and we are going to send back the updation value as is 59. Now it's complete. Now it's a promise, so we are going to send .10 response, and if we see and if we console it into our command prompt, we will see that it returns a very big heavy object. And let's save it, and we will see that it gives a heavy object. Now if we see that we have updated the value of the S21, that is uh, Ansuman. So if we see here and if we refresh it here, we will see that the age is different. Age is 59. So that's how update is done. And here gives the response gives a very big heavy load, and we only want two main fields like matched count and modified count. So for updating more than one file, we can use like we are going to use another method that is db.collection users.update many, and if we send it here like nothing, so it will be updated all in all the documents. So let's say we're going to increment all the a's by 1. So if for it we are going to use 1, it means we are going to increment by +1, or if we are going to decrease, we can use -1. So we are going to use +1. So it's an response, it's a promise. So we are going to also again use the .10 method, and it's going to send the response, and we are going to use only one thing, that is called modified count. And if there is an error, we can use catch method, and we are going to console it here. Now if we see it and if we save it in, and we will see that all the documents are being modified, and the modified count is 3. Now if we refresh it into our cloud service base MongoDB, we will see that Ansuman age is 60, Vinay's age is 28, and Ankur's age is 26. Now you have, or we have, done the U operation, that is update operation. Now we are going to see how can we use the last operation D, that is delete. So for deleting any document, we can use db.collection.delete one or many. So if we use delete one, it will take out the filter that we are going to use. Let's say we are going to delete the document Ansuman. So we can use the age method, or we can use the name method. Let's say here is Ansuman. Now for deleting here, that's it. Now if it's a promise, then if we response it back, it will give the document that we have deleted. Now if we response back, and if there is an error, we can see it in here. And sorry, that will be E. And if we save it here, we will see that oh, it will give a whole the document, because I haven't used the response dot delete count. But if we see here in our MongoDB database, we will see that Ansman document has been deleted. Now if we are going to delete whole file, this whole document, we can use the method that is called delete many, and it's very easy. So delete many, we are going to send the empty array, empty object. Now if we dot 10 and response back, and we are going to see how many documents have been deleted. So we are going to use deleted count, and if there is an error, we can use catch method, and it will give the error if there is any. Now we have saved it. Now if we see in here, it will give that only one has been deleted. Oh, sorry man, because we have used only delete one. If we use delete many, we can see in here. Now it will not give the required thing that we want, but it will be two. It will be two. So yeah, that's it. How to build the REST API. So before building the REST API, we have to download one or two things. That is, first we have to download the Postman. You can download it from here, and the second one is the Compass, MongoDB Compass from here. Choose the platform that you have and the version, that is the stable one. And after that, we can go to our project. In here, that project is already been given, and I have only added one property, that is password, and it will be there in the description, the repo link of this project. So now we are going to build the REST API. So before building a REST API, I'm going to show how does it look like. So let's say app.get the request that we are given, and the path, and there is one callback function in which two parameters are there. It is request and response. In this, we can response back with response.send. Let's say testing, and if we write testing here, and after that we are going to run this file, and then again we go to our browser, and let's see localhost 3000. We can see testing is there. So let's now begin to build our REST API. So before building the REST API, in our db.js, we are going to export this line. So for exporting this line, we are going to use module dot exports equal to user, and after that we are going to require it from here. So for requiring it from the db file, we are going to use user and require it from the utils folder and then db. Now we have required the user. Now if we are going to like create a user here, so for creating a user we are going to use a post request. So we are going to use post request in which we are going to get the write the path as a slash users, and we are going to use asynchronous process here. So we are going to use async await methods. So async await, so async request response, and what the data can we get from here. So let's say console it from console.log request dot party. So now I have run the file, but how can we see the request here? So that's why we are going to use the Postman here. Postman is like a browser request sender, or anything that a browser can do for sending any request to the server. It can do the same thing, Postman. So let's say we are going to create a new collection. So let's say for new collection, let's say mongoose demo, and in here we are going to create a new get request or a post request. So add a request here, let's say for create user. So in here it's a I'm going to close it down, all the requests that are here. These are all the previous one that I have used for another project. So in here we are going to, so now it's a post request, so we are going to send a post, and it's going to be a localhost 3000 users. And now we are going to use a body, and in here we are going to select raw, and we are going to send back the data as a JSON file. So in here if we send like name is like John Doe and age is 21. Now if we send it back to the send here, and now if we go to our here, you can see that undefined is getting console log out here. So the problem is here that the request.body that we get is not specified of which type. So here we are going to use a new middleware app.use express.json, and what it will do that it will parse the request.body that is a JSON type, and it will not parse any other type of request. So now if we send back again the same request, we can see the console log output. So now if we again send it back, now you will see that it will send the request that is name John Doe and S21. Now we are going to build a API. So we are going to use async await asynchronous process. So it's a very useful useful tool that the JavaScript gives us. So here the user, for saving a user, we are going to use await function, which is a asynchronous process. So user dot save, because for saving we can use user dot save, and in here we are going to just send back the request dot path. Now if there is an error, so for catching an error we are going to use try and catch block here. So for an error it will use like this. So we are going to use a try block here, and if any error, then response back with an status code of 400 and send back with nothing or e dot message. And if user is being saved successfully, we are going to use your response, or here we are going to use also something called const, because here we are going to create a new user. So here we are going to use the const user is equal to new user request dot body, and here we are going to simply write user dot save. Now it's being saved, and in here we are going to respond back with status code of 201, which is a code for creating any collection or a document. So we are going to send back with a user. So let's say if we save it now, and if we again send back with the proper properties, let's say name is given, age is given, we also have to write for email. So let's say john@gmail.com, and again password, and for password we can type like 123. And now if we send back, here you will see that a new user is being created here. Now how can we see in the MongoDB collection? So for this we have also downloaded the MongoDB compass. So in here we are going to just copy and paste the URL, that is the connection URL, connection string URL. So let's just copy and paste, copy from here and paste it here. So if we paste it here, and now if we connect it, we will see that the new user is being created. In here if we go to the test and users, yeah, you can see that a new user has been created. Now we can also see if there is any failure in creating a new user. So let's say the password here is of length 3, and which is required like you can see that in the message it is written that user validation failed because the password is shorter than the minimum length is allowed, that is 5. So the new user will not be created and it will go to the catch block. So now we are going to see how can we get all the users. So for getting the users, we are going to create a new part which is the same part, but only the request is different, it is get request. Now it will also take the request and response, and in here we are going to use a try and catch block. And in try and catch block, if let's say if there is any server side of error, so we can use 500 of error and send it back with nothing on it. Now we can use await here, and the user dot, we are going to find all the users. So for finding we can use find user dot find, and here we can pass any filter out, but we can simply write here like give an empty object. Now if it give a users back So for this we can get the users, and if there is no users here, like no users are being there, so we can use if not users, then it will return back from here response dot status of 404 and send back with nothing on it. And if it is successful, then we can send status of 200 and send back with users. So let's check it out if it is right or if there is any mistake in here. So in here we are going to create a new request here, so we can create it from add a request, and from here like we can write get users and save to MongoDB mongoose demo. Now first of all we are going to like create more users here. So let's say if it is running or not. Oh, there is some error here. Await. Oh yeah, we are going to use await, so it is compulsory to add a sync in the function below. So now if we go to our postman and create a new user, let's say Jessica, and here like S21 is right, and like let's say Jessica, and let's say here J1236 B. Now if we send the request of post, we will see a new user has been created here, and if we refresh it here, you can see the new user has been created. Now in the get users we are going to fetch all users that has been created here. So we are going to use localhost 3000/users, that is the path, and it's a get request. So now if we send the request, we can see that all the users is being created here. So now we are going to see how can we fetch only one user. So it's a get request, and it will also go to the users part, but here the ID of the user can be different, can be anything. So here we can use colon ID, and here it's async process also. So we are going to use async request response, and if we, and also it is going to be in a try and catch block. Now if there is an error, we can send the error back, and response dot send like 500, and sorry, response dot status 500 dot send e dot message. Now how can we use the ID here? So first of all we are going to see what we can do here. So it's a parameter, so it's go into the request dot params here. So now if we console log what's in here, console log dot log request dot params, and for right now we are going to just comment it out here. And now if we save it and go to our this block, and we send like we get it from here and send back here, and if we see, and if we go to our project, we can see that it will give the an object request of parent. It is the object. So now we are going to use the try and catch block. So let's uncomment it out, and now if we now we are going to const user find by ID, because we are finding it by ID. Sorry, await and user dot find by ID, and for finding by ID we can just send the give the request.params.id here. And now if there is a user of the request, then it will send back the 200, that is the okay. And if it is not, if it is null, we can check it from here, like if not user, you can return back, like we did the same thing in here. So it will return back with the response of status 404 and send back it nothing. And if it is true, and then we can send response dot status of 200 and send back the user. Now if we save it, and now we can go to our postman, and if we again run this send, we can see the user is being called out and we can get the user. Now we are going to see something called, for how can we do the update. So for updating any user, we can use update.patch request, which is an updation request. And in here we are going to use also the /users, and also we are going to use the parameter here, and it will be a async function and request or response. And now it all, and for updating something, we also need a body, because the browser or the client will set anything that they want to, so it will be residing in the body part. So here, from here, we are going to use the try and catch block, and if there is an error, we can see response dot status of 500 dot send e dot message. So now if we can also use const user, because there is only one user of that ID that is being resided. We are going to use await, and here we are going to use user dot find by ID, and we are going to use this function find by ID and update. So here first it will take the request dot params dot ID, and next one it will take the update we are going to do. So request dot body, that's it. And if there is user of that type, if there is a user, then it will return. If if it is no, there is no user of it, then it will return back return dot response of status of 404 because there is no found response dot send nothing, and if it is response back with the new update value, so status of 200 dot send of user. But it will not work properly, because it will not check if there is any validation or not. So there is optional properties required, that is, it will give the new user and it will set to true, and it will check for validation. For running validator, we are going to use run validator in here, which is look like this. This one will run the new and run validator. And now if we save it, and we can go to the postman, and in here we are going to create a new request, that is an update user. So we are going to update the user, and then we are going to save to the MongoDB. And now if we are going to patch sheet here and localhost 3000, and we are going to use this param, and we are going to send back with body, and we are going to select the raw and also select the JSON. And now let's say we are going to say update the age of this user, so it will like 34. Now if we send it back, we can see that the user is being updated and age is 34, and if we refresh it here, we can see that the age is 34. Now we are going to see the last one, that is app.delete. How can we delete a user? So for deleting, we can use app.delete users / id, and it will be a sync process, and we are going to use request and response. Now we are going to use try and catch block here also, and now we are going to see that if there is a user that is right, then await, it will give the user, so await user dot find by id and delete, and here we are going to pass the params of id. So the same thing that we have done in the previous request, that if there is a user, then it is good, and if it is not, then we can send the 404 message. So in here we can also respond back with a message. So now if we save it, and go to our Postman and create a new, or just say we are going to select delete here, and we are going to delete this one, and there is no bot required here. So now if we send it, we can see that it will give the user, and if we refresh it here, we can see that the John Doe user is being deleted. So that's how the REST API works here. We are going to look into a tool that is called Mongoose. Well, when we are using a MongoDB library, we are using for the CRUD operation, but for using other functionality like validation, typecasting is a bit difficult in this. So we are using a new library that is called Mongoose. Mongoose is a npm library that is used for validation, typecasting, and also the CRUD operation that we perform into it. So let's start with our new project. Let's say we are going to create a new project name called Mongoose Demo. We go into new project, Mongoose Demo. Now we are going to initialize the npm init by using npm init-y. After that, we are going to go to this project by using code space start. Now in this project, we are going to initialize how are we going to start the script. So for production purpose, we are using Node app, and for dev purpose, we are going to use NodeMon app. Now let's create a new file. Let's call app.js. Now here again, we are going to install new libraries. First, we are going to install NodeMon library. For installing it, npm install test test save test dev NodeMon. Now we are going to install npm express and Mongo. For installing it, we are going to use npm -i express space Mongo. In the meantime, we are going to use all the configuration that is needed here. Let's say mconst express is equal to require express and we are going to use the app that is going to get required from express as a function, and we are going to listen to a port number, let's say 3000. Now for using Mongoose into our project, we are going to create a new folder, let's say utils. In this folder, we are going to create a new file, let's say db.js. In this file, we are going to create a new const mongoose, and we are going to require it from mongoose. After requiring it, we are going to connect our MongoDB to the current project. So for connecting it, we are using connect function that we have used in the MongoDB driver. So we are going to require the server, means we are going to require the connection string that is here. Now let's copy it from here, and we are going to paste it into the connect function. In here, we are going to replace the password that is given here and pasting it into the password field. After pasting it, we are going to use optional options that is given here, like use unified topology to true and use new URL parser to true. After that, it is using, if we are using the then function here, like it returns a promise, and if we use then, it will give the successful result, and if it is error, it will give an error. Now for starting this file, we are going to use this file using requiring it from the file, using this thing, using required dot slash utils slash db. And now if we run this project by using npm run dev, we can see that the connection is established. Now we are going to use the mongoose in our file. So we are going to remove this one because there is no need of it. Now we are going to create the model of a user. So for creating a model, we are going to use a term that's called schema. So for using a schema, we are going to require it from the mongoose. So let's say schema const schema mongoose dot schema. After that, we are going to create a new schema of user. So for creating it, we are going to use any user schema variable, and after that we are going to construct or use new operator and using the schema, and here we are going to define the user schema. So what are the information needed in the user schema? So let's say we are using name, so which type it will be? It will be a type of a string, so we are using a string, and it's required, so we are using a required property of it, that's it's a boolean, so we are going to use true. And if there is any like spaces before the name or after the name, we are going to trim it, so it give a trim properties, so we are going to using trim is to true. And after that we are going to create a new document, let's say as, and in the as we are going to deliver like what type is it, so it's a type of number, and it's also required into our project. So after that we are also like, that's it. Now it's a model, so for creating a new model we are going to use const product user, and we are going to create a new model. For creating a new model we are going to use mongoose dot model, and we can give any name, that's a string, so let's say user, and in here we are going to provide a schema that we have used, so we are going to use user schema. Now we are going to instantiate a new user into our project. So for instantiating in the new user we are going to use a new user one, and after that we are going to use new creator constructor, and then we are going to use new user, and in here we are going to perform. Now let's say we have provided a new name, let's say John Doe, John Doe, and its age is, let's say 21. After this we are going to save it. For saving it we are going to use user.save, that is given by the mongoose, and it's a promise, so we are going to use 10, and after that we can see that if it is saved or not using console.log refresh, and if it's an error then we can perform an error operation, and after that we can see what's an error there. Now here you can see that it gives the user, and it automatically gives the ID and the name and the age and the version of the document, that is 0. Now if we see into our project we will see that it has been saved into our MongoDB. So for seeing, we can go to the collection, and here you will see that the user has been saved, and the user collection name is also given to it. So now we are going to see how can we provide the validation here. So if we want to validate that the age will be like only greater than 18, or let's say we validate that the age will not be less than 0, or it's not a negative. So for doing this we can use a method or a function called validate into it, and in this if we provide like if value is less than 0, it will throw an error. So for throwing the error we can use throw new error, and let's say age must not be less negative. So if we save it, no, first we have to change the value of it. So let's say if I write like -20, and now if I save it, you will see that it gives an error that say as must not be negative. So Mongoose can be used for performing like any validation that we require. Now if we add one more property, let's say email, so how can we check that an email is right or wrong? So it will be a string, and it's also required into our Jack collection. And for validation purpose, new there is a npm library. It's called validator. So we are going to install it. For installing npm I validator. So in the meantime, we are going to use the how can we like we can see here like if we don't display or don't initialize age in here, and if we save it, you will see it also gives an error here. It says that age is required and pay part age is required, and the message it's an error. So now we are going to use a new library called validator, and in here we are going to require it from validator. Now in here we are going to use validator validate function and the value that we provide, and in here if validator dot is email value, it will throw an error. Let's say it should be an email, but validator dot is email, if it is right, it will perform a true. So in here we are going to use not operator. So now if we provide like age can be 20, and if we provide like email to be john@gmail.com, and if we save it, now we can see that it should be an email, so it gives an error. So that's how we can use the Mongoose library into our folder. In this video, we are going to add new security rules and authenticate the user. So for now, the password field is filled with a plain text. So we are going to change it into a random set of values. For doing this, we are going to use a new library that is called npm bigcrypt.js. So I have already installed it using npm I bigcrypt.js and here I have also used the bigcrypt is equal to require bigcrypt.js. So in here we are going to use the schema method that Mongoose provide, that is user schema dot pre. It means that whenever a new method is to be called, it will be called before it. That is, whenever we use the save method, it will be called before it. And it's a asynchronous process, so we are going to use async process, and it uses es before es6 function syntax. So we are going to use async function, and in here we are going to use the parameter next, which is called whenever the upper functionality will be done. So in here we are going to use the const user is equal to this, This provides the document that is going to be saved in here. So in here, the user has a password. So whenever a user password is being changed, then we are going to run this if statement. So in here, if user dot is modified, in here we are going to just say the field that is password, and in here we are going to use the big crypt. So what's being changed? That is the password being changed. So user dot password is equal to, it's an asynchronous process, so we will be going to use await, and in here we are going to use bcrypt method that is hash, and in here the string that is the request dot password that we are going to change, and how many times we are going to run this algorithm, that is like it's a stable, that is we are going to use 8 times. So now that's it. By doing this, we can see if the password is being saved as a random set of values. So for seeing this, we are going to use the postman in here, and we are going to create a new file profile, that is the Jessica one. And now if we run this file, we can see in here that the password is being stored as a random set of values. Now that's being done, now we have to log in with the credentials that is being given, like email and password, and now we are going to log in with this email and password, but the password is being as a random set of values that is being provided by the bcrypt.js. So for doing this, we are going to create a new endpoint in here in app.js. So in here we are going to create a new endpoint, and here app.post, because we are sending the user's body, in here users and login, and it's going to be a asynchronous process, and we're going to use request.response. And now in here we are going to create our own undefined user defined method in here. So for this we are going to use const user, means first we are going to use, it's a synchronous process, so await, we are going to perform on the user method, and also the method that we are going to call, it's a predefined method, and sorry, user defined method, and we are going to define it, let's say find by credentials. And in here we are going to use two things, that is request dot body dot email, and also the request dot body the password. So what it will return, it will return a user, so we are going to use the same thing, const user, and in here, and that's it. And then we are going to create a catch block and provide the response, let's say response dot status 400 dot send. So now we have to define this new function or a method. So in here we are in the db.js, we are going to define it. So in here user schema, as we are defining it into a model or an schema, so we have to use the statics and the method name, that is find by credentials. And in here it's an asynchronous process, so we are going to use async, and in here we are going to provide email and password. And now we are going to define it. So in here we are going to find the user by the find one method, so we are going to use try and catch block. So in here we are going to use const user await user dot find one and the object, that is email, means the condition. So now if there is a user, if there is no user, then we are going to throw an error, throw new error. And if there is an user, we are simply going to check or compare the password that is given by the user with the password that is being stored in the MongoDB. So in here we are going to use the following. It's an asynchronous function that is await bcrypt dot verify dot compare, and in here we are going to provide the request password and the user dot password. Oh, one thing more, that yeah, that's it. User dot password, and in here it's return a true and false, so it's a boolean, so is match. So if it is not match, if not is match, then we are again going to try an error. And if it is being matched, then we are going to return the user. So in here in the catch block, we are going to simply write that what's an error, that is return unable to log in. In this file, we are going to simply like response back with the status 200 and the user, that is the user. And yeah, that's it. Now we are going to check our function. So let's move on to the Postman, and we are going to create a new request. In here we can create a new request, add request. In here login user, and it's going to be saved into Mongo schema, and it is going to be a post request, so we are going to provide post, and it's the local host 3000 users login, and we are going to simply copy it from here. Copy it from here, email and password, and just paste into our body. We're going to select the raw and also the JSON, and in here we're going to provide the email and password. Now let's look that we are going to get the user back or not. Yeah, we can see that we have got the user back. Now if we wrong out our incorrect our password, now if we send back, we can see unable to log in. So it's very easy to do, but there is a caveat in this, that is in here in the Postman, if we like create the user with the same email, we can see that it is going to create the same user, but it will also give the message. Oh, once again, maybe, yeah, db.js in email. Yeah, it will handle if we save the user with the same email, then it will be handled by the MongoDB, that is will give the error. So it's like it's very helpful or handful. So now we are going to see one thing that is called JWT, that is JSON Web Token. So now in here, for getting the profile, or it will be changed with the getting the profile. So whenever the user is going to like create a user or logging in with the user, then they can see their profile, not like whenever we click on whenever we like click on this endpoint, hit on this endpoint, then they can see it. Or yeah, this functionality is going to be changed in here. So for using this, or for understanding a whole point of this video, we are going to install npm install JSON wave token. So what it will do, like whenever we whenever we create a user, it is going to be like save a token. It will be save a token in the MongoDB, and it will be sent back to the client. And whenever the client is going to use any functionality, then they are going to use the same token that is being there in the client side and get authenticated to perform any functionality. So for understanding this whole thing, we are going to uh, see how it can be done. So now, as the tokens is going to be saved into our model, so we are going to create a new property that is tokens, and it's going to be a array type, because a user can get more than one token at the different point of time, or whenever they uses different devices. So it's an token of tokens of an array, and it's going to be a token, and in here it's going to be like type of string, and it is required. So now in here, whenever we save it, now we are going to use an, like for this user only, a new method, or a user defined method we are going to create. That is like any name that you can give, like generate auth token. In here, in this function, we are going to generate a new token for this particular user. So I am going to copy this name from here, and we are going to define it into our db.js. So in here, let's say here I am going to create it. So like user schema, but we are not going to use the schema method or a statics. We are going to use for that particular user. So in here we have given the user schema dot methods and the name generate dot token, and it's going to be an asynchronous process. And now we can define it here. So in here we are going to take the user, that is const user is equal to this. It provides a document that we are going to perform the functionality. And now we are going to use the in the JSON web token. So in here we are going to create a new const, let's say JWT, and we are going to require it from JSON web token. And now we are going to define, we are going to use the method of JSON web token. So await, it's a asynchronous process. So await JWT, and we are going to sign, because this method will provide the token. So JWT.sign, and it need two or like arguments, parameters. First parameter is the payload. So the payload will be the ID. So the ID of the user. So we can get from the user dot ID, but the user dot ID is an object ID. So we are going to change it and convert into the to a string method. Now the second parameter will be the uh, 1 second. Yeah, the second parameter will be the secret or private key. can be anything, but I'm going to use this is it is going to be like it is going to be a private, but in here I'm going to simply write it. This is my new course. So the next argument can be the expires in. Yeah, that's it. So now it's going to return a token. So let's write into this format, like it's going to return a token. Now in here we are going to save it or concatenate in the user.tokens. So user.tokens, user.tokens dot concat the token. And now just we are going to the user in here. So the await user.save and return the token, because that is going to be like a response back to the client side. So that's it. Yeah, this function is completely, it is right, but we are going to look into it. So in here it's going to like return a token. So const token await, and in here we are going to perform our response back with two things, that is user and token. Yeah, now let's see that in action. So in here we are going to see login create user, and now if we use Jessica and or we are going to change the uh, email to Jessica to Alex and name to Alex. Now if we save it, yeah, it's giving an error because now we have changed the model in here. So in here first we have to like delete our user in here from here, then we can see that it is giving the required result. You can see now that user is being saved with the tokens, and we are going to give back to the token also. Now same thing we are going to provide to the login also, because in here also the token will be generated and sent back to the client. So in here we are going to use const token is equal to await, and we are going to use in the user dot generate auth token, and we are sending back with user and token. Now if we log in with this email and password, so we can see in the action. So in here we are going to provide email and password. Now if we send it back, we are going to see that two tokens is being generated in here, and the latest token, that is this one, is going to send back to the client side. Now one thing is here that we are giving the client so much information here. We are going to provide like password and the tokens of all the tokens that are being there in the MongoDB. So we are going to like sort in the like hide the values or hide the information from the user, because it's for the security purpose. So for doing this, we are going to use another method, but it is a predefined, we can say, because in here we are going to use the user schema dot methods, because we are going to use the method into a particular user, and that's how the writing that I'm going to use, the same thing you have to use the to JSON, because this means that whenever we respond back to the client, in here it is being converted into JSON.stringify. So in here we are just going to like perform another additional functionality in here, because it is same as a JSON stringify. but we are adding some more functionality into this. So for using this, we are going to just use the following, that is user means function. Oh shit. User function, and now in here we are going to just say const user is equal to this dot, we are going to change into an object. So for doing this, user this dot to object, and in here we are going to delete user dot password, that because that don't really need it, and also delete the tokens, and just return the user. Yeah, now if we go into our postman and run it again, this endpoint, we can see that it's going to just give the user's name as an email and the latest token that is being generated. Now we are going to use the tokens that are being saved in the MongoDB and use into the another endpoints, like in here users endpoint, but the user don't want to see another user profile, so it's going to be a user profile method. So we are going to change the endpoint to users/me, and now for looking into a user's profile, we are going to use that token specifically. So we are going to use a term that is called the middleware. So that means that, let's say the new function or method that we name auth is going to run before this functionality. So for doing this, we are going to create a new folder again. We are going to create a new folder. Let's say middleware. And in here, we are going to create a new file. Let's say auth.js. So in here, what can we do? So let's say we are going to create a const auth, and it's going to be an asynchronous process. And also we are going to export back to the file. So we are going to use module dot exports the auth function, and we are going to use in this file. So we're going to use const auth is equal to require it from dot slash middleware and auth. Yeah, so what's to be done in this method? So now in here, it's a middleware, but it's used same functionality as the request response and also the next, because the next is used for going to the another endpoint. Yeah, now in here, first we are going to get the token from here. So for getting the token, we are going to use const token, and it's going to be in the request dot header, and we are going to talk about this later, authorization, and also one thing called replace, because the authorization is being used as a string. So we are going to replace a bearer space string with nothing. Yeah, that's it. The token is being generated here. Now we are going to verify this token and generate the ID. So const decode, and in here we are going to use the JWT method. So we are going to require it from JWT, require it from JSON web token, So in here JWT verify and the token, that is a token, and also the secret public key, that is this is my new course. Now in this decode there is the ID there of the user. So from here we can see if there is a user or not. So for looking into the user, we are going to simply say like we are going to use await method, and also we are going to use user model. So for this again we are going to um, use the user model or import it from the DB file. So require it from dot slash dot slash utils db. Yeah, now we get the user, and after getting user we can use the find one method. In here we are going to provide the ID, that is ID is to the token decode dot ID, and also we are going to verify with the tokens that is being there in the MongoDB. So for that we are going to use tokens dot token and the token. Yeah, that's it. Now if there is a user, then it will perform the operations or return back with the user. Now if there is no user, then we are safely to say like this is going to be a throw an error and throw new error. So request dot user is equal to user. Now there will be a catch block, and here we are going to response back with status 404 and send back with error error in authentication. It's going to be in string, so we are going to save it like this. Now if it is run, then we are going to use the next method, so it will go to the endpoint after that. So now in here in app.js, in here the all in this one we are getting the user if it is right, so there is no need of this. We are going to simply like write request dot user. Yeah, that's it. Now if we go to our postman, we are going to use the endpoint of this get users, but also we are going to use get users the profile that we are want to. So let's say we are going to use this. So in headers there's one thing called authorization, that the same thing that we have written in the code, that in this key there is a value. So the value will be the new one that we have used, latest one, like request this token is going to be used in here, and it's going to be written for bearer and like this. That's why we have used that to replace the bearer with nothing at all. So now if we run this, we are going to get back the users or a profile. So finger cross. Yeah, we get the profile back. Yeah, that's it. That's how we can do the getting the profile of an user. So now one more thing remaining, that is how can we log out from a system. So for logging out, we're going to create a new new endpoint, that is users and logout. So in here we are going to use request and response, and also we are going to use the auth middleware, because after authenticating then we are going to remove it from the they can be log out from the devices. So in here we are going to see how it can be done. So for this, it's going to return a token so that they can be log out from the system. So for this, we are also going to request dot token is equal to token. So now in here, we are going to see how it can be done. So in here, we are going to simply say like request. No, first thing we are going to also use the try and catch block. And in here, if it is right, then it is say like response dot status of 500 and send back. So in here we are going to use request dot users or user dot tokens, and now we are going to use request dot user dot tokens dot filter, because it's an array and it's going to take token serially wise. And if we're going to see a token dot token is not equal to the request dot token, then it's going to return all the tokens that is not being the request dot token. Now we are going to save it again using request await request dot user dot save and response back with a status of 200 and send back with request dot user. Yeah, that's it. I have already created a new logout user get endpoint, and you can see that I have provided the authorization, and also we can see that we can get the alex@gmail.com, like the user that we are going to get. And we can see in here in our mongoose that first we have to refresh it, and now you can see that only two objects are there. Now if we run again this file, and we have to also change this token. So let's say I'm going to take this token from here, just a sec. Yeah, now if I copy it from here and paste it in here and again send it back, we get the user. And if we refresh it here again, we can see that we will get only one object. Yeah, that's how we can log out from any devices. We can also use the Netflix users, like if we want to log out from different devices, we can simply write in here the same thing, but we can change here like request dot user dot tokens is equal to an array, so it will do the same thing, but it will log out from all the devices. Yeah, so that's it in this video. In this video we have seen how can we add the security and also authenticate the user, and how can we see that any other functionality can be done only through the authentication. In this video, we are going to learn how relationship between two models are done. So in previous video, we have already done the users model and we have written all the methods, static methods of user model. And I am added one more model in here, that is a task model. In here, the user have the task, so the user can can create a task for them. So this is the task model, and I have created this project in a systematic way. That is, this is a folder of models, and in here two files are there, task model and user model. And I have also separated the connection. So this is the DB model, DB folder. In here, that is the R middleware folder, and here is the router, the thing that we have learned about mini express. So in here we are just like in here we are here not written like the app express. We have written the router, which we get from express of router, and we just export it module.export equal to router. The same thing we have done for the task router also. In here, the router of task means task router have some API endpoints, that is creating a task, getting the task by ID, updating the task, deleting a task by ID. So we have exported it also, and in here the main file, that is index.js, we are just importing it from these two files, and we are using app.use user router and task router. That's it. So now in here we are going to learn how can we relate these two, task and user model, to each other, relate. So if a task is being created, so the task is being created by an owner, that means an owner means a user. We have to create a owner field in here, and in owner field the type will be the ID of the user. So the type will be that we get from the mongoose dot schema dot types dot object ID. It is also required, so we can give true. And yeah, that's it. We now if we go to our task router in here, we have to when we are creating a task, we have also to authenticate that the task is being created by a user that is being logged in. So for that we have also imported the auth, and just we have to write in here auth means if it is authenticate, if the endpoint is being authenticated, now the user can this task can be created in here. So in here this is the spread out operator. So all the objects, all the fields that are in here requested body is going to spread out, and in here we are going to just write the field owner, and we can get the request.user.id. Yeah, that's it. Now if we save it and go to our postman, and for now I have created I have just say I am going to log in with this Alex user, Oh, sorry, I haven't run the localhost 3000, so I'm going to run it. So we just have to write like notmon, or we can just simply write npm run dev. Now it's running. Now if we go to the postman, and again we logged in with, okay, sorry, logged in with, so we are going to log in with this user. So now if we logged in, we can get the token. Now for creating a task, we are going to go to the create task, and authorization is needed here. So we are just going to create authorization, bearer the token value, and the body. So in body we are going to just create like the JSON file is needed. So we are going to see what's in the task.js. Name and is completed. So name, let's say Node.js course, and is completed. This is not right. We have to write like a JSON format. Yeah, this is right. It's completed. It is false, so we have to just write false. Yeah, that's it. Now if we send it, we can see that the new task has been created, and the owner ID is being there. So if we go to our MongoDB compass, and if we refresh it, we can see new task is being created with the object ID of the Alex owner. Now if we want to like get the owner, all the description, all the information about the owner, we can do it. If we, I'm going to show into the in the index.js. So first, like my function, that's how we can call this. And in here, let's say const my function is an async value. And now we are just going to get the task. So we can do like first we have to like import the task model also in here. So const task is equal to require it from db / models / task. Yeah, so task dot find one, and oh, we can like find by id, and the id will be this one. So from here we can get the task. So if we want to console log the task.owner, if we console it in here, we get undefined. Oh, we have to like await it from, because it's an asynchronous process. Now if we again rerun again, can get the id, but we don't get the whole information about the user. So for getting all the information about the user, we can do by like this. Now for getting all information about the user, we have to like give one more reference ref uh, ref field. In here the model name is given, so the model name will be this one users. So in here we're just going to write users. Now if we again run here, like await task dot populate, this is the function that we are needed here. Populate, we are going to populate the field of honor, and we are going to execute it by using execute populate. Now if we just console it, and we can see that all the information about the honor is being written in here, everything. So yeah, that's how we can populate any field of another user, of another collection. So I'm going to comment it out from here. Now we are going to see, now here we are going to see how can a user, from user model we can get the tasks. So for getting the task, I'm going to rerun the same function in here. So in here we are going to need the user model, so we are just going to acquire it from the DB model and users. And now in here we don't need this one, and also we don't need this one. So in here we are going to get the user is equal to await users dot find by id, and we are going to use the id of our user, that is this one. We can get it from here. Just a sec. I have acquired the ID number. Now we can just console it, console.log user.task, but we haven't made the task field. So in here in the user model, we can do simply creating a new field, and the same thing that we have done reference, but the tasks will be more than one, so it will be an array. So there is another thing that Mongoose gave us, that is a virtual field. That is, we are not going to write the field in the model, but we are going to create a virtual field in here. So for creating a virtual field, we are going to write user schema dot virtual, and the field name that we have given there, task, and also an model here, and what it's referring to. So it is referring to the task.js, this one. So we are going to write tasks, and we are going to use the local field of this model, that is id, and we are going to use the foreign field of task model, that is honor. Yeah, that's it. Now if we go to our index.js and run again, no, first we have to await it. So we are going to await user dot populate the name tasks, and also execute it. And now if we run again, we can see that we have get user is completed false and Node.js course. So that's how we can, there are two methods to doing the relationship between two models. So now if we go to our task.js, in here the thing is already done. So in here the tasks.router, there are few things remaining. It is because we are going to authenticate all the things in here. So in here we also use the, so to getting all the tasks we are going to use auth method here. And because the one that the user wants, the user is authenticated with, is going to get the fields. So in here find by the owner field, it is owner is to request dot user dot id. That's how can we get the task. In here also the auth method is given, but it's going to be find one. So find one, and we are going to find one by using id is to request dot params dot id, and also the owner method is also needed, owner field. So request dot user dot id. Now in here auth method, these things will be there, but in here we are going to use the find one method also, and this is going to be id, and the same thing, owner is to request dot user dot id, and yeah, that's it. We can do this by this. Now in here the delete also we can do by find one, and so I'm going to just copy it from here, and that's how we can do. Now one thing is there that if we delete the user from the database, so the database will be deleted from the user model also and the class model also. So for doing this we are going to use the same thing. We are going to use a pre method. So we can do this by user schema dot pre, and we are going looking for remove method and async function, and now we are just going to get use the const user is equal to this, and we also needed here the task model also, so we are just going to acquire it from const task is equal to require dot slash task. Now so we are going to await it, await task dot find. We are going to find by owner, and the id will be request dot user dot id, and we are going to use the next function also, and we are going to use the remove function in here, and just we are going to write the next here. So that's how we can use two models in here, users and tasks. And yeah, that's how it's being done. In this video we are going to learn three things, that are filter, pagination, and sorting. So whenever we hit this endpoint, we get all the tasks, but we want just one task, like we want the tasks that are completed or not completed. So for getting this type of functionality, we have to use the filter functionality. So in here we just going to modify here, and let's say the part will be the task, because in this where we are going to modify the values. And the match, this field is where we have to, like, what we have to match it with. So it's completed, let's say it will be a true value. And now if we save it and run it here, we will get only the true values. And if we just use the false, we can get only the false values. Now this is not dynamically, so we have to write some code in here. So in here, let's create a const match, and we are just going to use a query, because in here the filter will be request.query dot is completed. If this is the object is given, then we are going to simply write match dot is completed is equal to request dot query dot is completed is equal to true. This is because this value will be a string. So whenever we compare it with the true value, we can get the value with that will be assigned to the match dot is completed. Now if it will be assigned here. If it is a false value, it will be assigned and it will compare with the true string, and then it will be assigned to the match dot is completed. Now just we have to remove this, and we are going to save it here. And now if we run it again, but first we have to, like, give it what we have to know. Let's say request dot is completed is equal to true. Now if we run it again, we will see that we can get the true values, and if we use false here, we can get the false value. Now there is one thing is called pagination. So in pagination there is two things, that is a limit and a skip. In limit, this is what we call, like, what amount of data that we want, that what amount of data that we are going to limit to. And a skip is the value, that is what are the next value, next after the next skip value, that the values that we want. That means if it is a 10 value, it means that we need the set of another 10 values after the first 10 values. So for getting this, we just have to use options field, and it's an object. In here we just have to give limit integer value and skip integer value. So if we are going to use dynamically, but it will be a parsing, because the value that we get from postman, it will be a string. So just we have to convert it into a integer. We are just going to use request.query dot limit, and in here the parse int, we are just going to use parse int request dot query dot skip. Now if we save it, and in here First we are going to see all tasks here. All the tasks are here, false, true, true. Now if we want to get only this task, we are just going to limit it to a 1. We get only one task, and if we skip equal to 1, that means we are going to skip this task and go to the next second task. Then we get this second task, and if we are going to use 2, we will get the third task. So this is how limit and skip works. Now next is sorting. So in here sorting is done by the next another. In options field there is something called sort field. In here this requires an object. So in what way we are going to sort it? So if we again like run it here, so in what way we are going to sort it? Let's say we are going to sort it according to the created at. So if we use created at here, so we have to send it like created at is minus, because this is a it requires an integer value and it only takes -1 and 1. -1 is for descending and 1 is for ascending. So if we say -1, and now here we're just going to save it here, and now if we look into in the created at, and if we run it here -1, the task is upside down, means the task that is in the bottom, it goes up. That means this task is at a descending way. That means this task has come at the last. This task has been created at the last, so it is in a descending order, so it will come first. Now if we save it as a 1 and save it and run it, we can get the first task that is created first will be in here. Now if we sort it according to the is completed, so is completed, yeah, no. Now if we want to like convert into a way that will be a way that will be dynamically. So for doing this like is completed, for doing this we just have to like create a new const match is equal to an empty object right now. Now in here we are just going to use like sort by. Now created at descending. We can write any way, like if you want to like use another symbol, any symbol that you want. I'm going to use colon symbol here. So if you want to use like this, like created at a descending way or ascending way, if this type of things we want, so we have to like use here if request dot query dot sort by is there. So we are just going to use to like sort. So what will we get? We will get this value here, created at this ascending or descending. So we have to split this string. So for splitting it, we are just going to use const string is equal to request dot query dot sort by, and we are going to split using the split method, and we are going to split according to this column. So for doing this, we just have to use colon here. So we will get two string here in an array. Now we are just going to use sort, and we are going, because it is assigned to a variable, we are going to use sort str is equal to, so if str1 is equal to dsc, we are going to use ternary operator here. If it is this, then we are going to assign to -1. If it is not, we are going to assign with 1. Yeah, that's it. Now if we just remove it and use sort here and save it here, and if we run it again, we will get false to true value in ascending way. And if we use true here, we will get the value as a descending. So yeah, that's it. So this is how the three things, filter, pagination, and sorting, works in Mongoose and Node.js. Thank you.